and this is the Age Group Multisport podcast with me, Richard Conway. This is a platform for age group multisport athletes to showcase their journeys. Welcome along to another episode of the Age Group Multisport podcast. How you doing? I've noticed on Instagram that people are still racing in one guise or another, whether it be cross-country, cyclocross. There's still some duathlons going on. Obviously, it's winter time, and that's the time that they were traditionally done anyway. So yeah, fair play to you lot for getting out there and doing it. Nice one. And speaking of duathlons, the last qualifier for the European Championships for next year took place down in Devon, and as I said on the last podcast, a few of my teammates were down there trying to qualify. Me and Mrs. C were going to go down, but we had a change of plan, and it was a bit grim by all accounts, and from the pictures that were sent through, they'd had a hell of a lot of rain, and the conditions weren't good. Considering it was supposed to be a qualifier, a lot of it was underwater and lots of leaves on the roads, and the roads were back lane-ish, and the run course was off road and almost countrified tracked lanes, and there was a lot of complaints, to be honest, on Facebook and the comments. So yeah, not good. My club members, they were a bit apprehensive, to say the least, because when they were doing the recce's, it wasn't very nice weather. It was a bit grim. But on the day, all the rain cleared, the weather got better, and the race was okay. Yeah, it wasn't too bad. Apart from, that is, Cowgate. So picture the scene, me and Mrs. C snuggled up in bed quite smugly, not having made the long trek down to Devon with a cup of coffee, supporting our teammates, as you do, by watching them on Live Tracker and hoping that they're going to do enough to qualify. And the next thing we know, on Instagram and on Facebook, Age Group News put up a photograph, and the photograph depicts one cyclist being held up by cows crossing the road. And then the next thing you know, there's more and more cyclists that have been held up by these cows that are crossing the road from, I don't know whether they've been milked or not, but so it actually held them up for 3 or 4 minutes, I believe. And obviously one of my teammates, Steve Hunt, who's right at the front of the photograph in his bright pink and fluorescent tri-suit, you can't miss him, and he's not very happy about it, and it pretty much didn't do him any favours in the race. So anyway, they carried on, finished the race, and it was a bit of a nightmare. There was also quite a bit of traffic movement, also causing disruption during the event. So all in all, it wasn't the easiest or best event, especially not for an age grouper when you want to try and qualify and there's things on the line and you've put a lot of work and effort into it, and obviously it was the last time that you could actually qualify for next year. So yeah, not great. Well, thank you for Age Group News, and if you haven't heard of Age Group News, it's run by a couple of previous guests we've had on the show, David Pearson and Karina Kaufman, and they're usually at the races, to be fair. Whether they're racing or not, they're usually down there and they're sending images, and before races they put out who's favourite, put out posts who's going to do well usually, and then after the race they give us a bit of a rundown on how it's gone. So yeah, very informative. 2 good platforms, one on Facebook and one on Instagram, so shout out to those guys and also give them a follow. And then today, we're on Monday the 13th of November, they've put another post on, and basically it's comments from the race organisation, which in a good way they have actually come out and talked about the event, but basically they were just saying that they were pretty gutted as organisers to receive some very negative feedback from the event last Sunday. And then they go through all the different things like the cows, and they've even called it Cowgate themselves, and they claim that it's the fourth time they've done the race and they've never had this happen before, which is fair enough. You know, unforeseen circumstances, there's not much they can do about it, is there? Thing was mentioned before the race that they recommended that a TT bike was the fastest on the course, and people who took a TT bike down and realised that the weather was horrendous, the roads were horrendous, weren't very happy with that claim. And I guess it was down to the weather, to be fair to the organisers. You can't foresee what the weather conditions are going to be like, but you can maybe have a look at what the roads are like, and you know, because some of them were on little back lanes, one-way tracks. Maybe not a wise move to suggest which bike people should or shouldn't use. But they stand by their bike choice, and of course they've accepted that there are certain things that they can improve at the Devon-Duathlon, and they're going to work hard to implement it for the next event. The question came up of adjusting the times for the athletes that were held up by the cattle. And on the Sunday morning, just a couple of hours after the race, I was chatting to David Pearson, and he claimed that maybe they would alter the times, and all people might have to do is send in their GPS files. However, that's come to light that that's not going to happen, as it was deemed too difficult to do, as some people were delayed for a few seconds and some by a few minutes. I don't know whether that's a cop-out or not. My opinion is that you've trained hard, you've spent your hard-earned money to get there, and you want to do your best performance, and then something like this happens. And like I said, the cows, you know, never happened before at their race. Fair enough, there's nothing they can do about it, but they could have looked into probably looking at the GPS files that was suggested and doing it. It's just whether they could be bothered or not, I don't know. It just, you'd be really, really annoyed. And one of my teammates messaged Rosemary Haywood, who's the manager for this event in Europe next year, and asked if there was anything that could be done about it. And sadly, her opinion was that it was tough luck, which is really what you want to hear. But there it is. So that was age group qualifier, sprint duathlon down in Devon. If they've got another qualifying race next year, maybe look to do something else. Who knows? It's up to you. But it's not just in age group that there's controversy. This weekend over in Chile, it was World Triathlons World Cup Series. I think it was the final race, and it was quite important for several athletes trying to get some points towards qualification for the Olympics next year, and that included Katie Zafiris and Gwen Jorgensen, the two Americans, and also Vicky Holland was over there, took the trip over not long after becoming a mum this year. In fact, all three of them were mums now, and to get back to this level and this standard is absolutely amazing, and they're just so inspiring. But anyway, back to the race. From reading around the reports that have come out on social media, the four leading athletes took a wrong route. Instead of following the motorbike down the side of the blue carpet and the finish line, they actually went down the blue carpet, crossed the finish line, and carried on the lap, which I think give them a few seconds advantage or whatever. Anyway, at the end of the race, there was an appeal, a complaint was put in, and their they were pretty much disqualified, I think. So it turned out that Gwen Jorgensen won it, and Vicky Holland got third. And Vicky's since come out and said that it's not really the way she wanted to get back onto the podium. It was pretty sad, actually, how it all happened and how it all come about. So, yeah, it just goes to show, even at the world professional level, things do and can go wrong. So, yeah. But I guess that's what makes our sport interesting, with things like that. Right, now on to the guest. We have Dean Culshaw, who is originally from Lancashire, Lee, and moved over to West Yorkshire, a little village near Harrogate. And he's 70-year-old. And he got in touch and said he'd like to share his story. And great background. But he's celebrated being 70 this year by doing his first Ironman. Yeah, and that was pretty impressive, despite everything else he's done. But yeah, like I say, he came from Lancashire. Rugby league background. He was rugby league mad, well, sport mad in general. But played rugby right up until his mid-30s. Even when he was out in the Middle East working, he said he was playing rugby on sand and in high temperatures. And it was while he was out there, he was on an American base, and one of his friends was a triathlete and decided to put up and run a sprint triathlon. And he thought, oh, well, we'll have a go. So all the rugby team had a go at it. And that was his first brush with triathlon. And he didn't do another one for quite a few years, I think. And with one thing and another, and life takes over, as we always say on this podcast, with family and work and stuff. He got into a bit of running and he did some marathons. But one thing I have gleaned from Dean is that he loves a plan, he loves a process, and he loves a goal. And that becomes clear within this podcast. So I hope you enjoy his story, from rugby beginnings to qualifying for age group and representing GB, and then, like I said, just most recently, he's just completed his first Ironman at the age of 70, and he doesn't look as if he's going to be slowing down anytime soon. So great story, and it was a real pleasure to chat to him, and that's coming up. Couple of podcast recommendations, and the first one is the Runner's World podcast. And this was an episode, and it was how to get faster. Well, that had my attention straight away, because who doesn't want to try and get faster, even if you are getting older? So this podcast was an attempt to answer the eternal running question of how do I get faster? And they were joined by Tom Craggs, who was National Endurance Manager for the England athletics team. And basically he was telling us how to introduce speed work sensibly and how much you need to do it. So that was good. That's worth a listen. And the second one was another episode from the Oxygen Addict, and they brought us 10 tips for increasing bike power, run or swim over the winter, which was a good listen. Lots of nice little facts in there, and tips and hints to get your teeth into, so go and have a listen to that one. On the last episode I was talking to you about a book I was reading called Ultra Processed People by Chris Van Tulleken, and it was all about ultra processed food basically people can't get away from now in the diets. It come about and what's the effects that it has on us. Although we don't eat a lot of processed food in general, and hardly any ultra processed food at all, it was an interesting read, and it was good to do a deep dive into the amounts of shit that the average diet contains. So if you don't just see food as fuel, but actually what it does to our bodies, then it's really worth a read, and it might even change your mind of how you're actually eating and fueling your body anyway, because it does make a massive difference what we put in. So yeah, that's a really good read, recommend that. Just started a new book which is called Outlive, and it's written by Dr. Peter Attia, and basically it's a manual, his words not mine, for living better and longer, and we all really would like to do that. The book goes into why current, as he calls it, medicine 2.0 isn't working, because it's trying to heal the issues after the fact, which the author calls medicine 3.0, that being that it's preventative. Breaks it up into what he calls the 4 horsemen, which is cardiac, i.e. heart disease, cancer, diabetes, and dementia. He takes us on a journey of how we can improve each area of these in our life, and he also gets quite personal, shares with us how he's improved his own mental health issues, cardiac issues along the way. So yeah, really good read, really enjoyed it, and really worth, if you're really into your lifestyle and health and wanting a longer and fitter and happier life, then it's worth investing in a copy and reading all about it. On the subject of cardiac, heart attacks, heart health, we had the sad news last week that one of our previous guests on the show, Andy Biggs, after doing a park run, took over to hospital with a suspected heart attack. Fortunately, and the good news is that he was in over a week, and he was waiting for a scan basically to see what had been going on. He hasn't got a blockage, but they have put a stent in for him, and he's now at home on the mend, and the healing process begins. So good luck, Andy. Like I said to you before, if you need anything, give us a shout, and a speedy recovery. Now for the main event, and we shall see you on the other side. Morning, Dean.
Morning. How are you doing?
How are you?
Very well. Very well. How about you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Thank you for taking your time out to have a chat.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. Let me just put your volume up a bit and I can hear you.
How's that?
Good.
Better, yeah. Where do we find you in the world?
North Yorkshire, sort of
All right.
little village called Bishop Monkton, between Harrogate and Ripon.
Nice part of the world.
It's beautiful. Yeah, it's great.
So have you lived there all your life?
There. No, I've not. No, I'm sort of originally from Lancashire, from Lee, in between Manchester and Liverpool, rugby league country.
Yeah.
And moved over here. Well, we've been in this place, 30 years, 32 years. So,
yeah.
But I spent most of my time living and working overseas. So, sort of this has just been my base until I've retired. So.
Yeah. Excellent.
So
yeah. Also lived over in Warrington, and know Lee quite well. Nice little place.
Yeah. Current holders of the Rugby League Challenge Cup.
You're a big rugby league fan, then?
Yes, but it's hard work when you support somebody like Lee. A bit of a yo-yo team. So
yeah. I mean, I must admit, when I was over there, I was. It was a time when I was at university in Liverpool, and really got into rugby league. I wasn't into rugby at all, but found it quite exciting to watch, to be fair. So yeah, fond memories. So if you'd like to start by introducing yourself.
Okay, well, Dean Culshaw, 70 this year, and it's been an enjoyable time getting into triathlon, but that's not how it started out. I mean, I suppose as a kid, my introduction to sport was through school, sort of. So, and I played rugby at school, and actually I was sports mad, so I just enjoyed playing lots of different kind of sports. So anything that was sport, I had a go at it, which meant, rugby, football, athletics, anything that would sort of would involve not being academic. So I enjoyed that, and rugby sort of took my interest, and I played rugby union as a kid, sort of carried it on after I left, went to university, played rugby there, University in Newcastle, and after I left there, I sort of carried on playing rugby, and sort of that was a main sport. Although I enjoyed all sports, so I was aware of all sorts of sport, but rugby is what I played, and any sort of running that I did, associated itself with rugby. It's sort of something you did to get fit, but didn't put any thought behind it at all, and just carried on playing rugby.
Sorry, I was just going to say another link there. You said you went to university in Newcastle. My wife, she was up in Newcastle also at university, and we lived up there for a period of time. Another great city.
Yeah, no, it was fantastic. I enjoyed my rugby there. That's for sure. In fact, probably the most enjoyable rugby of my career as it was, just because it was just you were young, you had good players around you, and it was really good fun as well. So
how long did you play rugby for?
Quite a long time, actually. I didn't quit till I was about 37.
Right. Yeah.
So I went. What happened was that I went down to lived in the Nottingham area for 5 or 6 years after university. But I always wanted to travel and work overseas. So I took a job overseas and in Saudi Arabia in the oil and gas industry.
Okay.
So I went to work in the oil and gas industry, which sort of became my career, and played rugby out there. That was great fun. That was great fun, playing rugby on sand in temperatures that people would be thinking, wow, that must be mad playing rugby in that. And it was, but it was good fun. It was good fun, and it was a great way to travel around the Gulf and meet lots of different people. I mean, yeah, it was good. It was good. But in fact, that was the first place that I did a triathlon.
Okay.
Was in Dhahran, Saudi Arabia. A friend of mine who I played rugby with did triathlons, so, and you were aware of it. It was on, in those days, it was on, so I lived on an American compound, American base, and you used to get this, I think they're called Trans World Sport or something like that, and they would show the Ironman Hawaii races, sort of the Iron Wars, with what's it, Dave Scott in it, so I was aware of it, triathlon, and this guy said, well, let's do a triathlon. So he organized a sprint triathlon in 1983, 84 or something like that, in the pool. So we all had to have a go because we were all in the rugby team. Everybody had to have a go, and I enjoyed it. I was really good. I enjoyed it, so that was good. But nothing since after that for a long time. Came back to the UK, and during the Gulf War, actually, we came back, and I sort of worked for an oil and gas recruitment company here, based in Harrogate, and then I didn't really do much, to be honest. I was trying to get the business off the ground, and that was time consuming, young family, very difficult, but I did a bit of running because it was the simplest thing to do, and a little bit of a theme started coming about then. I thought, well, if I'm going to do some running, let's have a goal, let's have a target, and I like a plan. I like a goal, something to aim at, and then so I said, well, let's do some 10Ks and let's try and get my time down and this sort of thing. And then you're a runner, you've got to do a marathon. I mean, it's sort of one of those things. So I thought, well, I'll enter the London Marathon. In those days, it was probably a bit easier to get in than it has been.
I can imagine. Yeah.
So in '98, I think I did that, and so and I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the training for it, and this became a bit of a theme. I looked at a plan. Well, in fact, I talked to somebody who'd done a marathon who said he followed a plan in a book, and so I found a plan and I followed it religiously. I just said, that's what it says I've got to do. That's what I did, and it was great. It was great. Really enjoyed the process. Enjoyed the day. I mean, a marathon is a long way. I mean, man, it was just fantastic. It was like, and of course, the London Marathon, for everybody who's listening who's done it, will know that it's just like running in a football crowd. I mean, you just basically, there's people all over the place. It's a very sociable event. You're chatting to everybody.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, it was
and
great.
It's such an achievement, isn't it, to have ticked that one off?
I think so. It felt really sort of. It felt really good, and I liked the. I like the idea of you set yourself a goal, set yourself a target, work out how you're going to get there, and then you put into place a process, and it is about a process, So I enjoyed that,
Cool.
and that sort of set the blueprint for later on when I came across the idea of doing triathlons. So that took a while, because then work gets in the way, and then I went back working overseas, and I went to work in Azerbaijan.
Right.
So I was based in Baku. Again, it's an oil town. So and my first couple of years there, so I went there in 2004 or 5. But the first couple of years there, pretty unhealthy lifestyle. Long hours, lots of eating and drinking. Just wrong lifestyle. So I decided I needed to sort of address that, and I did. And I thought, well, I'll go back to running, which is what I tried to do. And it was fine. And I did some running, did a couple of half marathons, some beautiful countryside around there. There was a half marathon in Georgia, the Kazbegi mountain marathon. Beautiful, absolutely stunning. And I used the same approach of a plan, sort of to get fit for it. And I did. And I also joined a big shout out here for something that some of your listeners will know about, but the Hash House Harriers.
Okay.
And that they were great. They were great. So I think the Hash House Harriers describe themselves as a drinking club with a running problem. And
I like that. That's very funny.
And it's just a simple thing. They set a trail and you follow a trail, and it doesn't really matter what time you do it in. Walk it if you want, but you have to find your own way. And it's a bit sort of, I think it's probably came from public schools, sort of in the 19th century, I suspect. But it was great, and that sort of got me back into running for fun. And then I sort of just started getting fitter and fitter, and did that. And then all of a sudden, sort of the running, I thought, I can't keep doing this. It wasn't easy to sustain, sort of just running. I just didn't feel like it was something I could. I was getting older, almost 58 or something like that, and I was thinking,
right,
I just can't keep running. So I need to do something else. So I started doing a bit of cross training in the gym, and then somebody decided to put on a triathlon in Baku in Azerbaijan. So I thought, well, I'm definitely going to have a go at that. Don't have a bike, but that doesn't matter. I'll just borrow one. And that was great. And a couple of years that was put on, and I really enjoyed it. And I thought, well, if I'm going to do, I might as well just take it seriously and have a look at it. And that's when I started looking at triathlon in the UK and sort of seeing what's going on. I came across the British Triathlon Association, and I thought, well, sort of, oh, that's what you do. And I read about it. I like to read around the subject. I enjoy sport, so I enjoy learning about stuff.
Yeah.
So I looked at that, and then so I'd done the Baku Triathlon, and I thought, well, there's going to be another one the next year, so I'll train for that and I'll read around the subject. And in doing so, I discovered that I could sort of get a plan off the internet. Somebody would send me a plan, and so I signed up to somebody who would send me a plan, email it to me, and which they did, and that was great. I just followed that plan, and I enjoyed the cross training element of it. The fact that I didn't have to run all the time. I could go for a swim. Cycling was a bit of a problem. I had to do all that indoor, in a hotel gym, and that was a bit of a problem, because Azerbaijan at the time wasn't great for running, to be fair, but it wasn't great for cycling. It's very dangerous on the roads, and very hard to find somewhere to cycle. So it was all more or less indoor cycling, and I thought, well, if I'm doing all this, why not I enter an event? So I decided to enter an event, and entered one in the UK.
Okay.
So that was in 2000. I was checking 2014, and I saw this event in Shropshire, Ellesmere, I think it was, and if anybody's done that, that's the one where the lake is blue or green or whatever it is. Just disgusting things, Anyway, I didn't know that at the time.
Yeah.
And I entered that, and that was my first one. And I trained for that in Azerbaijan, and I just came home literally for the weekend to do that race. The job I had involved a lot of travel anyway, so I was quite often backwards and forwards to the UK. But so I came home for that, and of course to do the triathlon. So I sort of, funnily enough, I mean, I hadn't ever worn a wetsuit before.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you about that. How did you transfer from the pool to open water?
I'd never worn a wetsuit before, and so I bought this wetsuit on a previous trip home, took it back to Azerbaijan with me, but there was nowhere I could really swim in this wetsuit other than the pool. So I thought, well, I've got to try it on. I've got to see what it's like, So I stuck it on, and I swam in the pool, and everybody was gawping at me as though I was crazy swimming in a pool in a wetsuit. I don't care. I just needed to find out what it was like. I thought, well, that's all right. You go faster. It's great. It's great. So that was that. Anyway, I went back to the UK with my wetsuit, having worn it once in the swimming pool, and of course I didn't have a bike, so I'd got my wife to buy a bike for me, and literally we met at the hotel, and she brought the bike down that I'd never ridden before. Still had its reflectors on and its bell, but it was a nice bike. It was a Boardman sort of carbon team bike. It was a nice bike, but it had all the bits on, and flat pedals, so it was great. So that was it. I rode it for about sort of 25 minutes the day before, and found out where the gears were and all that. So it was really quite a thing. And did the race, and first race. I don't know, if anybody can remember their first races, but this is what, 2014. So it was sort of it was an awakening doing that. I'd read about it, and sort of all I'd read was to be prepared for a bit of mayhem at the beginning of the swim and all the rest of it. And I thought, well, okay, I'll just stay to the side a bit. This is what everybody advised to do, and I did it. But nothing prepares you for that swim. I mean, it was just, and it was horrible, and the lake was disgusting. And it was just a nightmare. I think I'd gone about 60 meters, and I thought, I'm not going to be able to do this. I mean, there's loads of people in the way. There's people all over me. I said, what's? Well, I thought, well, I'll just count strokes. Let's count the 40 strokes, and then I'll count another 40, and then I'll see where I am if I've got anywhere. And eventually, of course, you get round and you do it. You get out, and then you have to get out of your wetsuit, which I really didn't know very much about how to do, but I managed it, and then got on the bike and pedaled away, and it was great. And then I got down off the bike, went on a run. The run was awful, man. I hated that run. It was a bit undulating, but I was so exhausted. I mean, by the last sort of couple of K, so it was a standard distance race.
Right. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So by the time I'm sort of coming up to about 8K, I'm thinking, I'm counting steps. It's just I'm thinking, how am I going to get to the end of this? I am so exhausted. Anyway, obviously, eventually I got to the end of it. And unbelievably recovered. I mean, pretty not too soon after finishing, I thought, wow, that was quite good.
Yeah.
I quite enjoyed that. And it was then that I'd sort of I was looking around and chatting to a few people in the sort of transition and this sort of thing, and it was really quite friendly, and there's a lot of people, and I saw some people with the sort of GB suits on,
Yeah.
I thought, I wonder what all that's about, and sort of then started inquiring and reading around that, and I thought, well, maybe I should think about doing that, because I like a plan, I like a goal, and I like something to aim for. And I thought, well, what do you need to do? And I went into all the qualifying times, and I looked at my time. I thought, well, I'm not going to qualify unless I get a bit quicker than I am. But I thought, well, of course I can. I mean, I was just sort of now I know what I'm dealing with. I can work at a few things.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. I sort of I thought, well, that's my plan, that's my goal. Where is the event that I can qualify for? And I tried to qualify for the European standard distance, and that would have been in 2015. So I had to do an event in 2014 to put time down for that.
Yeah. I mean, it's quite a task that you undertook. I mean, most people rock up at the first triathlon and at least they've been out on their own bike and they've had experience and time on it, and they've swam in open water quite a few times beforehand. And here you are, just rock up and had none of that, not being able to, and still got round. So that's a great base, I guess, from your first experience to set you on the path to try and qualify.
Yeah, and it was, and the fact that I enjoyed it was a big plus. So I then discovered there was a qualifying race about a month or so later, and so I did that, and that was I think it's called the Dam Buster.
Yes, yeah,
Rotterdam Water.
Yeah,
and that was that. So again, the same scenario. I flew out from Azerbaijan, but this time I'd actually been on the bike, and I'd done. So it was, and that was a lovely race. I mean, the waters looked nice to start off with, and I knew what to expect. I'd done a bit more specific training, and I'd thought about things that I needed to do to lay a time down, and I did, and so I did the race. I mean, I did okay in the race, didn't sort of set the world on fire at all, and just sort of put a time down and waited to see happened after that. And because I was keen, you know, I mean, I was checking that qualifying scenario every, you know, sort of every week to see what had happened with the other races and see where I was. And I had the standard. I think, you know, I don't know, what was I entering? I think I was going for the European, so it'd be, I think I had about 114.76%.
Yeah.
So I just scraped in. So I was always going to be one of the last to qualify, which is indeed what happened in the end. You know, sort of got through the roll down, and you know, so that was it. And that set me on the path of doing some GB events.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter whether it's a roll down or a queue, does it? Really, it's
No.
all valid. You know, there's places there to be taken, and whether you're first or last place to get, it's still relevant, and you know, shouldn't be underestimated.
No, it shouldn't, and it was really good fun. You know, I mean, and you know, thereafter, you know, I started looking for other qualifying events and decided to go on and do some of those races as well. I thought, well, duathlon, I can do duathlon. I can run, bike, run. You know, don't have to worry about the swimming then.
True.
So I did some of those qualifying events. Qualified for some of those. So yeah. So all of a sudden, I was on my sort of career, if you like. You know, sort of racing standard distance. You know, GB and qualifying races, and it was great. Met some really nice people, and you know, did some great events, and at the same time, I retired.
Right.
So 2014, I stopped work, came back home to the UK, and you know, and to be fair, it sort of gave me a nice sort of purpose, you know, to train and do triathlon. It was new. I was embarking on a new sort of phase in my life, you know, being retired, and I thought, well, yeah, let's give that a go, you know, sort of, and so we said, you know, I said, well, you know, I'll do the races. I can do the races in the UK, fine. I can probably get to most of those on the day or the day before. But if it was somewhere we were interested in, we'd go for the weekend, and you know, sort of enjoy sort of being in new locations in the UK. If not, I just go for the day. And then for the events, for the international events, we said, well, let's just pick places we want to go and have a holiday afterwards.
Yeah.
And
I think that's what most people do, isn't it? They'll look at, you know, they'll look at where it is. And I mean, like I've said before, triathlon and multisport for age group, it just takes you to places that you would never go to.
Yeah.
You know, like you've said, you can have a holiday afterwards or while you're there. So
yeah, it was great, and that became a bit of a pattern. You know, my wife's you know, sort of interested, does a lot of sport as well. So we take our bikes and we typically go and have a cycling holiday after we'd done a race. You know, so that became a bit of a thing for us as well. You know, so my first race, GB race, was in Geneva. And then after that race, we went cycling around Switzerland for 10 days. You know, so it was great fun.
Yeah.
So
your progression then, when you'd retired, how did the training ramp up? Did you get a coach or join a club or anything, or have you always just done your own thing?
No, I joined a club, NYP Tri, up here in Ripon. And that was great because we have access to a lake, so, and it's literally, you know, 5 minutes away from me, so that meant I could get plenty of open water swimming in. And I, whilst I didn't get a coach per se, I still liked my plans, and I still liked to read around the subject. So if in those first few years, I would say my coach was Joe Friel.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
And so I dived into the Triathlete's Training Bible, which I can see here on the bookshelf, sort of, and the other one he did, which was Fast After 50.
Fast After 50. I've got both of them on my shelf as well.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And it was, and I liked to read, somebody who was serious about what they were saying. So I wanted a serious approach to it, to understand, sort of what you needed to do. So that's what I did, and I bought. I used to buy training plans, sort of to work to, based on if I had 12 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever it was. So I always had a plan. I always had a plan, and I'd always that I would work to. And I need that sort of discipline that says, Tuesday you're doing this, Wednesday you're doing that. And I don't have to think about it, because if I have to think about it, I won't do it, or I'll find an next. Well, yeah, I'll just, something else will come up, I mean, I might be retired, but I've never been so busy in all my life.
That's usually what they say, isn't it?
So there was lots to get stuck into. So I was pretty. I don't know if that's self-coached, but I always followed a plan.
Yeah. I guess it's self-coached in a way, although you are following a plan. That's just telling you what to do on what days, isn't it? You've still got to do all the other things around, because it's not just training, isn't it? It's strength training and eating healthily as much as you can, and all the stuff that goes around it. It's a lifestyle at the end of the day.
I think that's a good word for it. It's a lifestyle, and I wanted to embrace that lifestyle. I mean, I wanted to have a long, happy, retirement. Which involves being healthy. So I think it was great from that point of view. In that it pointed me in a direction, and I think that whole sort of cross training element of it keeps you interested. There's always something you can work on. There's always something you can do better. There's always something that you can improve on. And if it's not the swim, it's the transition. If it's not the transition, it's the the bike or the run, and then you started reading around the subject, and you realize you need to do some other stuff. And I was picking up quite a lot of injuries, sort of, and I used to think, I need to do something about this. So again, read about it and decided it was, strength and conditioning and stretching and mobility that was the problem. So as soon as that light bulb sort of went on, I got into that, and now I'm sort of I like to do lots of that. In fact, I move more towards that than anything else. So that's been quite a thing. Yoga has been my savior. And sort of, I mean, obviously I do the strength and conditioning as well, but just that, and I try and do it daily. I try and sort of do something every day, and it's just that stretching really helps. And it sets you up for the day. If you do it first thing in the morning, small routines. I'm a great believer in 10 minutes. It's enough. 10 minutes of yoga in the morning, sets you up for the day. If you do nothing else that day, at least you've done that, and it just costs you 10 minutes. That's all.
100%. I'm with you. I do usually try and get 15 minutes in the morning. Don't do it every day. Try, but other things, like you say, I'm still working and gets in the way. But yeah, definitely does set you up for the day. And it's, I think it's there's also a mindful element to it as well, not just the physical. You know, you feel much better after you've done it. And obviously your body feels a lot better after you've done it, because it, like you said, it does set you up for the day. So yeah, 100% with you there on the yoga. But yeah, strength and conditioning as well. As we're getting older, you know, a lot of people don't do any strength and they just waste away basically. And you know, there's no fun in that, is there? So
I've read, I've read around it, and yeah, the drop off between 60 and 65 is huge for your sort of your testosterone levels,
yeah,
and your muscles degenerate, and you have to do something to address that. The drop off between 65 and 70 is even more, you know,
yeah,
so you've really got to sort of, you know, if you want to carry on, you know, you really need to pay a lot of attention to that, or else you just get, well, you sort of just get your injuries, but also you just feel a little bit, you know, weaker. So you got to put the effort into that.
yeah,
So that's really what I've been trying to focus on.
yeah. So what you obviously you've raced quite a lot for GB, and I saw on your email that you've just completed your first Ironman. How did that come about?
Oh yes, that's so around about sort of 2019. I sort of well, I did the World Championships in Lausanne. Really enjoyed that. I really had a good race there and a nice holiday afterwards. But I have to confess, I was falling out of love with the standard distance. You know, it was sort of it sort of had got to the point where, you know, it was just swim as fast as you can, cycle as fast as you can, run as fast as you can. You know, which is fine. You train for it and you do it and all the rest of it. But there wasn't a lot more else to it. It was just, you know, just a hard race, you know, sort of. And I thought, you know, I don't want to keep doing this. Maybe I want to do something that's a bit, you know, a bit more endurance based, a bit more thought behind it, a bit more planning, strategy, you know, sort of that sort of thing. So so I thought, well, maybe I should just go longer and just do about a 70.3 or something like that. So I thought about that, and then COVID came along and kiboshed, you know, everything, you know. So in the end, I didn't do much in terms of racing. Obviously nobody else did, you know, for a couple of years, and then sort of I was approaching 70, you know, sort of this year, and I thought, well, you know, the COVID had finished. I thought, what should I do? I said, well, it would be a challenge, you know, to do I mean, Ironman's a challenge anyway, you know, but I thought, well, you know, to do one when you're 70s, you know, especially as it's your first one, you know, would be, you know, something to work at. So, like I said, I like a challenge, I like a goal. So it was 12 months in the making, and I thought, well, let's see if we can do it. I didn't know if I could, because I didn't know if my body could take the sort of the training, and that was my biggest concern, was whether or not I could do that. So I'd sort of I thought, well, I'll do a qualifier. So in 2022, I did a sort of the Woodhorn Tri standard distance, because the World Championships this year were in Pontevedra, and I thought, well, if I can get a qualification place, then I've got something. If I can't do the Ironman because my body won't take the battering, at least I can sort of I can fall back on something to aim for. So I did that. Got a place, but then I signed up to do the Ironman Copenhagen. And this time I got a coach. This time I got a coaching setup, Team Oxygen Addicts.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Listen to his podcast.
Yeah, Rob Wilby, And that was because they specialize in this sort of long distance stuff, and I thought, that's what I needed, that input. And they were brilliant. They were just fantastic. And again, I read around it, tried to understand what was involved, what was different about it, and just sort of embarked on that. I had a race in 2022, a 70.3 race, just to sort of try out a few things. That was great. Actually, coincidentally, it was the British Championships, middle distance championships, and I became British champion. Now,
that's hilarious.
It sounds great. It sounds great. I actually didn't win. I came second. But the guy who won must not have paid his membership to the British Triathlon Association. Yeah. So that rolled down to me. So I thought that was quite funny. When you get to this, sort of 70, 74 age group, it's gosh, there aren't many people in it, but the people who are in it are serious. It's really quite it's really quite funny.
Yeah. I was just going to say, in my age group, I'm 55 to 59, and the age group before that and after, they're like really, really competitive, loads and loads of members. And obviously, as we get on, like you've just said, it sort of like decreases. But the times of some of those guys that are in that, age group, it's just phenomenal. You know what I mean? What they're doing is just, it's just, and for us, at our age group, it's just so inspiring to see guys and girls still doing it, and not just like competing and just going through the motions, actually racing and doing it really, really well. It's just awesome to watch. So yeah, just hats off to you. You say there's not many in there, but you've still got to do the work and do the training and everything else.
Yeah, no, it's sort of, you think, well, do you have to push me this hard? Do you have to? Why? But anyway, it was great. It was, and I loved the training, but it was a year of training, for this one event, and I did a lot of strength and conditioning, which made the difference. I dropped running. I didn't do as much running because, as it happens, most injuries you get come from running.
Yeah.
And so the advice was, do less running, do a lot more cycling, because there will be a transfer from the cycling you do to the running. And so. And that is true. That's the way it worked. You can put your hard efforts into your cycling, that will transfer to your running. So all my running, very slow paced, sort of run walks. Is all about sort of keeping injury free. And it was a great program that was on. It was a long program, but in the end, it worked really well. Worked really well for me. And it's a big leap into Ironman. So anybody thinking about it, you should give it a go if you fancy it. But it's a, what do they call it? It's an energy restricted event. It's all about whether you've got, obviously you need to have the base fitness training and all the rest of it, but your nutrition is absolutely vital for that. So you've got to get on top of that. And again, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed learning about how to fuel for such a long event, and that was a real sort of interesting scenario, to find out how best to fuel, how to take all that fuel on board. Gosh, you sort of 6-hour bike rides, they're long, and you'd carry your food on that when you're training. I mean, it's okay on a race day. Maybe there's aid stations you can get stuff, but so you'd have to plan your routes and it was really quite a long process, to get on top of it. But I felt great coming up to race day. I felt confident in my nutrition plan, confident in my race plan, and this is what I wanted. This is obviously what I was missing with the standard, which I'd got a bit stale at. I needed something that needed strategic thinking about it, and this was really, really good. So on the day, it brought its own pressure, because I was only ever going to do one.
Yes.
I was only ever going to do one. So, and this is my one event. Things can go wrong, as we know in triathlon. Things can go wrong. That swim can be a disaster. You can get a puncture. You can do all sorts of things can go wrong. On the day. So I didn't want anything to go wrong. I wanted to try and control everything I could control. I controlled, so the swim was great. I don't know. I don't know if you've done any.
No, never done any long distance stuff. No, might do when I'm 70.
Yeah, do it. But it goes on forever. It goes on forever. It's such a long time swimming, for sort of nearly 4K. I mean, just can you imagine? I mean, it used to drive me insane training for it. You go around the lake and doing 4K of swimming, and I'd just be bored. I'd be looking at the fish thinking, is that the same fish that I saw before? It goes on and on and on, never ending. Anyway, on race day was obviously a bit different, a bit more focused. It's still a long way and still a long swim, but it's a lot more. It's a bit better focus. So the swim was great. It was a sea swim in a lagoon, and so you didn't have to worry about the waves and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it was great. Hour 20. I did the swimming, which was right at the top end of my target time. So I didn't know what the time was, but I felt like I'd had a good swim. As I say, as it happens, it was right at the top end. Transition, fine. Get on the bike, off you go. 112 miles. You're in for a long bike ride. You've got to fuel it properly. Try and avoid a puncture. So you're spending all your time, eating and drinking on the bike. I mean, it was. The time went, remarkable. By the time I knew it, I was on the second lap. I was thinking, 3 and a bit hours done. I need to refuel, get some more water on board at the aid station. And that's great fun. The aid stations are great fun, trying to cycle through, trying to get that sort of water bottle without falling off your bike. So all these things are, make it an interesting day, but you're not going flat out. You're limiting your energy output because you've got to do a marathon. It's pointless, sort of burying yourself on the bike. And in fact, this is one of the things that the coaches used to drill into you. He says there's no such thing as a good bike and a bad run. No such thing. You have a bad run because you've had a bad bike. You've got to stick to your power levels, stick to your plan, make sure that you've got enough energy left to do that marathon. So came in at the end of the bike, and me and another guy in my age group basically got off the bike at the same time. We're more or less the same time, and we set off on the run, which was 4 10K laps. I loved the idea of 4 10K laps. I didn't even think about doing a marathon. I was just doing 10Ks. Yeah, and it was just a sort of psychologically that fact that you didn't have to worry about thinking about a marathon. You could just think about doing a 10K, and that helped enormously. And I'd set myself a target for each 10K, and whenever I do my triathlons, I love to do a negative split on the run. It's just a thing I've got, and I've always done it in the standard races and all my other races, and I thought I'm going to do the same here. So I set myself a target of 75 minutes for the first 10k, sort of the same for the second 10k, and then depending on how I felt, I was going to go for it. Now, when I say I was going to go for it, that meant I was going to do it in about 70 minutes as opposed to 75. That doesn't mean I broke any world records. But as I say, the guy who was in my age group, he went way past me really quickly on that first lap, and I thought, well, if that's how fast he's going to run this sort of 42k, then I am not going to catch him. There is just no way. But as it transpires, he blew himself up, and I came round to the sort of final 10k. I'd overtaken him by then. He was walking, and I was just sort of shooting around. And I stopped and asked my sort of wife and daughter who were supporting me there, and I said, just give me my overall time, because I thought I need to know what my overall time is to see how hard I'm going to push this this last 10k. So they did, and I thought, you know what? If I really peg it, I can get in under 13 hours. So I went for it, and it was great. I mean, some of those kilometers had a 6 on them, so there was I was really quite pleased with that. Finished really strong. Felt great. 12:54, that's first in my age group, sort of by 50 minutes.
Wow.
And it was just a fantastic, obviously I was exhausted, I was sort of worn out, and sort of as soon as, it's like when you stop, you feel great, up until the sort of 30 seconds after you finish, and then everything falls apart, So it was like that, without a doubt. Don't get me wrong, I didn't feel great for very long, but it was great. Loved it. It was a really enjoyable, sort of event. Fantastic experience. Yeah,
awesome. Yeah, I mean, what an achievement, though, especially, no disrespect, but 70-year-old taking on your first one. It's and meticulously, by the sounds of it, from getting yourself a coach and actually taking it seriously and going through each step and actually following the plan, and it's paid dividends, hasn't it? Obviously, it got you to where you needed to be and what you wanted. So yeah, hats off to you. Well done.
Yeah, it was a great event. Yeah, loved it.
Yeah. So I mean, that's fantastic. That brings us up to date then, does it? Have you done anything since?
No, I've not done anything since, other than a bit of sort of training. I've done a few bits and pieces, I've done a few road races, and just local stuff to keep going.
Keep ticking over.
I'll do nothing. So I'm 70 this year. My wife's 70 next year. Next year's her year. Right. This year was all about me. Next year is all about her. So,
nice.
We have some cycling planned. Some cycle trips. We'll do that. I will do some triathlon races. There's no doubt I will do some. Probably 70.3. But they're pretty sure they're going to be low key. I want to see where the European middle and long distance championships are, and when they are. Obviously, I've got, for them, the qualification's a bit different, and I'm sure I'll get in. So if they're, I think the long distance worlds is in Townsville in Australia.
Yeah, it is.
But Australia is not on our sort of agenda for next year. So the European one maybe, depending on where it is, and I hope so, because then it'll fit in with what we want to do. But yeah, that's so I'm carrying on with triathlon for definite. I won't be doing Ironman again, but 70.3, yeah, and maybe some standard races, depending on sort of where we are with what we're doing for my wife's special year. So
Excellent. Well, you've got sort of a plan there. You've got something to look forward to, which is always good, isn't it? Keep you
Yes.
ticking over.
Yeah.
So, well, it's a great journey. Thank you for sharing it with us. I really enjoyed listening to how it's developed and, everything else that went with it. Just a few quick fire questions now, and then we'll let you get on with the rest of your day. And the first one is, what's your favorite bit of kit?
Oh, well, that would have to be my watch. That would have to
Right.
be, yeah. That was a lifesaver. I don't know. Maybe that was a bit too grand, but it was certainly a game changer. Having data, sort of that was key. So yeah, I would say my watch. Sort of all of a sudden, I had information that was really important, especially heart rate information and that power and all the rest of it. Sort of just available, load it up to Training Peaks, have a look at it, see where you're going right, see where you're going wrong. Yeah, a watch, definitely.
Cool. Yeah, a vital bit of kit in my experience. I agree with you there. We've discussed about resources, and you like reading around the subject on, several times in the interview. You said that. Could you point anybody? I know we mentioned Joe Friel's The Bible and his Fast After 50, both great books. Anything else that you would suggest that triathletes might look at or want to look at for a resource?
There's plenty out there. There is plenty out there, and there's plenty good information from well qualified coaches. If you're on Training Peaks, you've got a lot of information on Training Peaks. There's a lot of the coaches nowadays. So my coaches at TOA, they put out a lot of information, which is free. You don't actually have to, sort of join their programs. So I gain a lot from other people's race reports, other people's stories, that sort of thing. That's why your podcast is great, because you can pick up little bits and pieces, so like for my, sort of Ironman, one of the things I was really keen on was what had caused people to fail, what had they done wrong, and how can I avoid, doing those things, and you can only get that by, sort of reading around the subject. So there's plenty out there. Joe Friel is still relevant. It's still, everything he writes is still, I still go back to it. Sort of, it's still relevant. So yeah, stick to Joe.
Stick to Joe. Yeah, absolutely. What advice would you give anybody who's wanting to get into triathlon at, let's say, an older age like you did, and then want to try and qualify for age group?
I mean, definitely do it, because the cross training is really key. So in terms of yoga and strength and conditioning, they should be, as important as your swim, bike, run, if not more important. And then I would also recommend not doing as much running.
Yeah.
There is a direct crossover from bike to run. So if you're doing three swims, 3 bikes, 3 runs, drop a run. You don't need to do that third run, because the bike, if you do a hard interval session on a bike, that'll give you as much as you need. You won't need to do a hard interval session on the run. I mean, unless you're doing sprints, maybe if you're doing sprints, you might need to, but no, so as you get older, I would say drop a run.
Yeah.
Do less running.
Great advice. And obviously you're testing me to it, so it obviously works. And finally then, I think we've probably touched on this, but we'll just refresh. What are your short and your longer term goals?
Well, I guess short term is to, sort of, I suppose, do a couple of races next year. Yeah. Mind you, at my age, I tend not to have long-term goals, so.
You're going to go on for years yet, Dean, surely.
But in So short term is just have some fun racing next year. Because as I say, we'll be doing some lots of cycling with my wife. She loves it. So, but my races will be for fun next year. Well, yeah. After that, yeah, maybe some 70.3s. So so in nice places. In nice places. So that'll be the plan.
Cool. Well, good luck with it all, and just again, thank you ever so much for coming on and sharing your story. Really, really interesting. Lots of food for thought. And yeah, thank you. I won't take any more of your time up, and much appreciated.
That's great, and thanks very much. It's a great podcast, and I've enjoyed chatting.
Cheers. See you, Dean.
Bye.
And there he goes. What a great story. Hope you enjoyed that one. Really nice to hear somebody who's been dabbling with triathlon since, well, 1983, I guess, when he first started. But yeah, what a journey. I'm always inspired when we get guys on of 70 and above, with all their experience and the knowledge, and they're still at it. It's just fantastic to watch and inspiring for us all, I guess. So thank you, Dean, for sharing and coming on the pod. And that's about it for this episode. If you'd like to get in touch, you can send us an email at agegroupmultisportpodcast@gmail.com or DM us on Instagram at amp_1967 or Facebook at ampgb. We're on X now, which is formerly Twitter, at Age Group Multisport Podcast. And we're back on YouTube as we've got our RSS feed up and running now. So all the podcasts are on there. As soon as we submit them, they go straight onto our YouTube channel, which is ampgb. You can find all our podcasts also on our own website, which is the Age Group Multisport Podcast.buzzsprout.com. And really would appreciate if you could go over to Apple Podcast or onto Spotify and leave us a rating. Comments are great as well. And also subscribe to our channels, because it really does help get the message and the platform out there to like-minded people. So that would be really appreciated. And that's it. Thank you once again for taking your time out to listen to the pod. And as usual, don't forget, stay safe, keep training, and love the process.